So we're going to talk about boycotting and how powerful boycotting is. Um, so I'm waiting for a couple of people to come on. Wanted to talk about Gal Gadot and how her past has caught up with her and how karma works. Karma is an energy that never misses its mark. Now, you guys, many of you don't know, but I've been doing tarot cards and reading since I was 18, went pro 20 years later. About 20 years later. And have been doing this for a long time. And what I can tell you is that in the 20th century, meaning the 1980s, 1990s, karma sometimes waited a lifetime. But today, in the 21st century, karma will hit you within a year, within a week, within a day. Karma never hits its mark. So this is a very interesting example of karma with Gal Gadot, Snow White, the boycotts. And some people are saying, oh, boycotts don't work for boycotts. Imagine me going to see a movie by Snow White. We know the fuckery of Disney. We know, I hope you guys know, I wish I had known this when I was a kid watching some of these cartoons, and it kind of breaks my heart, because I actually happen to love the visuals of the old Snow White. I love the visuals of Sleeping Beauty from the 1950s. I actually do. And the Nutcracker. I mean, I have memories of them. Disney has some nefarious shit that's been going on for decades. Okay? But let's go to Gal Gadot and how people are boycotting, and people are boycotting, okay? Don't believe in the bullshit of people saying, oh yeah, it's doing well. It's not. It's fucking tanking. Here's why. Because one of the things you may want to do is first understand the history, and I mean go down the rabbit hole of the history of Palestine and the Palestinian people and PLO and what was happening. And I remember this because I had Jewish friends who were going into the army at 16. This was the age. It wasn't 18 in those days. It was 16. And I was going to a school in Hong Kong, and one of my buddies who was Jewish was actually flying into Israel to do his duty at the age of 16. And this was the same happening with the Palestinians. They were going into their army at 16, and it was co-ed on both sides. It's always been co-ed, the armies. Okay. Now that we know what they've been doing, right, after Yasser Arafat died, right, after we know what they've been doing to those people, controlling their water, their electricity, you can't have chocolate, you can't have cilantro, you're not allowed to have a fucking wedding dress, you're going to go through checkpoints, we're going to fuck with you, we're going to frisk you until you feel so uncomfortable, you don't want to go through our checkpoints. When you have a president, an American president, Jimmy Carter, saying that after he visited what they were doing in Palestine, and he felt like it was worse than the apartheid in South Africa, that's some fucking rank shit to say. Meaning, he must have seen some shit. Okay? For a president who brought peace to the Middle East, when he had Israel's prime minister and the president of Egypt sit down and write a peace treaty, which I saw live. I'll never forget that. I was a kid. In the 1970s, okay? And when he says that, you're American president, you better fucking pay attention, because if he says that, we got a problem, okay? And what's happening is we have these nefarious characters who have their own agendas on this. Now, here's this chick who actually served as a soldier during a time when things were escalating. Not only did she saw shit, she did shit. And people know it. No one's stupid. And when you know that some kind of evil is happening to innocent children, I saw videos. I was talking to my accountant, actually. We had a 2-hour conversation, and he was still spewing the rhetoric that we, on October 7th, that kind of rhetoric. And I said 1948. Tartara, the documentary that has these old-ass men from their own mouths on video bragging about the butchery that they did. Bragging. It's on video. You can look it up. If you really want to know, you can look it up. But the boycott of this girl, she's become the, it's sad too, because I actually was a fan of hers, believe it or not. I loved her in Wonder Woman. Loved the Wonder Woman 1 and 2. So what are we learning here? Well, there's so many levels to this shit. We're learning that we have to stop looking up at stars. Because we have to remember they're playing fucking roles. The hero, the anti-hero, the good guy, right? They're playing a script. And it's not who they are. I don't give a fuck if they have a pretty face or a handsome face. It's not who they are. Most of these stars are trying to actually now teach us wisdoms, which I find hysterically funny. Because they haven't been in the trenches like the average Joe and Jane out there on the planet. They started in the industry through nepotism, or they were successful in the industry at a very young age. Brad Pitt comes to mind. Sure, he struggled, but not for long, okay? His face opened a lot of doors at a very young age. And so we have to understand that these people, though they are, you might have had crushes on them, like, obsessive crushes on you or whatever, they're not the answer. They're not wise. It doesn't make them good. So some comments I saw, not on TikTok, by the way, on X, where people are saying, oh yeah, sure, that the boycotts don't work. Well, I said to them, it's a good thing you weren't around during the civil rights, because if it wasn't boycotts, the very thing was boycotts. Boycotts work. When they were killing dolphins during the tuna fish industry in the 1970s, kids like me were telling our parents, don't fucking buy tuna anymore. Because tuna was the favored lunch in our lunch boxes at school. We all had fucking tuna fish sandwiches. But the minute we realized that dolphins were losing their lives in those nets, right? Drowning, essentially. It was grass. And you got to remember, in the 1970s, there were no fucking internet. I hope you guys realize that. So we did it on a conscious, the 100 monkey theory type of domino effect. We would talk to each other about what was happening as 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old kids, telling our parents, yeah, I don't want to eat that in my lunch. Just give me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I don't want that fucking tuna fish sandwich. Anyway, so that boycott fucking worked, because now today, when you buy tuna, it has a fucking seal that says tuna safe, dolphin safe. So boycotts work. It worked with the suffragette movement. It worked with the civil rights movement. It fucking worked helping dolphins. And it's unfortunately impacting her. I'm not saying she's no angel, trust me. But she has become the symbol with the horns of the devil, if you will, for many people. And what needs to happen is everything created by Hollywood, because they were, silent for fucking, it's going to be on almost 2 years. It's more like 18 months now. They've been silent until they saw that people like you and me gave a fuck about these kids. So boycotting Snow White's going to help. Boycotting McDonald's will help. Starbucks, it fucking plummeted their stocks into the billions, going downhill. It works. If you can do nothing else, right? If you feel powerless and depressed, don't be depressed, my friends. Stand with people by not supporting big businesses that continue. During the apartheid in South Africa, Shell Oil was involved in that fuckery, and many of us boycotted Shell Oil. They felt the pain. The problem with many of you is that, and when I mean millennials and Gen Xers, is you're educated, okay? But you're not fucking using the internet like you should. And you should look up all the successful boycotts in the last 100 years. You should know this shit. The reason why I know it is I lived it. That's why I know it. But Shell Oil, no one was fucking buying gas in the United States of America because it was connected to South Africa's apartheid. So when a president, Jimmy Carter, is sitting there in interviews saying that what was happening, what has been happening in Israel, was the apartheid there was worse. I mean, and again, worse than the South African system of apartheid. You should fucking be shaking in your boots. What the hell is he talking about? Well, I'll tell you what he's talking about. He's talking about videos I've seen, actual videos of 3-year-olds being arrested, 5-year-olds crying, and the teenage boy, the brother, sibling, mother, trying to grab their kids back. What the fuck are they doing arresting 5-year-olds? What purpose is it to arrest 5-year-olds? Do your due diligence. Do your research. There are videos upon videos. The reason why the shit's finally exploding onto the world stage is because now we all have fucking smartphones and we record. In the 1960s and 70s when this shit was happening, in 1948 when it first happened, there was no way to record. They were running for their lives, having opened their doors to people that should have fucking known better. And as I told my friend, I said it would be no different than me helping someone who's homeless, opening my door to them, me going to buy groceries and them locking me out, and the state supporting me being locked out of my own home after I gave, mercy to people who were homeless. And by the way, that happens to this day. There are people who literally have held space for homeless people because right here in America, out of the kind of their hearts, and been squatted on, where these people became squatters and their squatters laws, and literally lost their home because they were literally living in their van or car waiting for the law to come and do, the just thing, which is throw out squatters. So on a microcosm, we've seen it go down. On this expansive, truth of it in that part of the world, it happened on steroids. And so the concept of boycotting, and the reason why it's important, it's not to bully this actress, Gal Gadot, or whatever her name is. It's not to bully her, really. It's really more of a symbol telling to the world and telling, the powers that be that are not listening to who are completely clueless, okay, to how serious this Geno is, to fuck the fuck off. You can put your products, you can shove people who symbolize what you believe in, but we're not going to buy your products. Frankly, Walt Disney and Disneyland should be fucking empty. And I've heard some nefarious things about bathrooms and tunnels and shit like that, but that's another show, and you can look at that up too. It's all there. The thing about ignorance in the 21st century, if you're still ignorant over this shit, it's woeful. You don't want to know. To be ignorant of that in the 1940s, 20s, 30s, 1880s, I could see that. I could understand that. Even 70s and 80s, I could see that. But today, with all of the information, all the video proof, right? There's no fucking excuse not to know. If you don't know, it's because you don't want to know. And therein lies the problem. There are a lot of people who want to be ignorant, who want to just listen to what the CNN alphabet channels on TV tell them to say, to think, and literally the regurgitation of programming, aka brainwashing, is shocking. But I'll leave it there. I've got some videos to upload on the Raw Talk with the Sacred Masculine. Check it out on my YouTube. I've got some other things going on that I got to upload. But I'm going to definitely upload this, and I'd like you to maybe share that, or share something that is more in line with how you want to reason with someone who's still not fucking getting it, who doesn't want to watch, I think it's called, if I'm correct, Tartara. It's a documentary of what those men did when they attacked the Palestinian people and their children in the Nakba of 1948. From their horse's mouth, saying what they did to those people who opened their homes, generously sharing. It smacks of Columbus literally landing on quote unquote America or India, whatever the hell he thought he had discovered, and how he treated the Native American, indigenous people. It's no different than the Quakers who landed in America, in North America, and decimated the indigenous people who taught them about corn and who fed them, or else they would have starved that winter. We can't keep playing out this karmic loop of stealing from the very people who help us. And to promote and to allow this kind of philosophy to continue, people who are attached to that kind of taking, of avarice, of cruelty, right? Well, that's how all countries have been created. No, it doesn't work if you want to go into the New Earth 5D. And there's this weird philosophy that this must happen if Yeshua, aka Jesus, aka Isa, is going to come down and, right the wrongs. It blows my mind. It's like the level of logic on a spiritual level, the level of logic on a 3D level is so... I don't have any words. It's almost like there's levels of stupidity that I can't even wrap my head around. Thank God, because that means I would actually resonate to these concepts. But how the fuck are we supposed to think that to steal someone's land, steal their women, kidnap their children, shit like, and do whatever the fuck we want whenever we want, after they have opened their doors, homes, fed us, clothed us, and then we turn on them? How do we think this is going to bring us to any ascension? There is no avatar, prophet, that has any kindness or relevance in this new earth that I would want to follow, who thought or promoted or supported this kind of brutality. Now, there's so much ancient history from the worship of Baal, B-A-A-L, so it's B-A-apostrophe-A-L, Baal. And if you study Baal, which goes back to the Phoenicians, the Punic Wars Punic Wars with the Romans, but it goes beyond, with Queen Dido that went to North Africa from Greece and set up the Semitic people as we know it today, right? And study Baal and study how they worship Baal. We have to understand that this kind of philosophy trickled down into the Old Testament, where we were being asked to offer sacrifice, if you know what I'm getting. And no God that created us, no energy, no frequency of energy of divine unconditional love would demand a sacrifice of that type. None of it. So whatever the fuck are in these ancient books, scriptures, scrolls, whatever, they're not coming from source. They're coming from Anunnaki, draconian, reptilian bullshit. I'll leave it there. I'm going to read your comments and then I'm going to jam. I have something to do. A client I have to do a reading on in about 20 minutes. But any questions or comments? No? Okay. I'll upload this, and thank you again. Boycott. It fucking works. Namaste. Be well.